Before you hear a single round crack past your ear, before you smell the burnt metal and fierce sweat of a collapsing front line, I need you to understand something. This isn't a story about winning. You've heard 100 war stories. The hero saves the day. The squad bands together. The flag goes up. This isn't that. This is a story about the moment you realize your command has been lying to you. Not out of malice, but because reality itself stopped following the rules. This is about the week I watched my lieutenant give an order that should have killed us all, and then watched it save us for reasons nobody can explain. This is about the sound a GPS makes when it starts counting down to a location that doesn't exist yet. My name is Sergeant Nina Voss, and if you're listening to this, you probably think time is a straight line. So did I. Now sit down, shut up, and try to keep up. The first time I knew something was wrong, we were already 3 days into a recon patrol that should have taken 6 hours. I'm Sergeant Nina Voss, squad leader of Recon Team Ghost, 3rd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. That's the official name. We called ourselves the Misfits because every single person in this 6-man team had been kicked out of another unit for being too weird, too quiet, or too damn stubborn. The Army's misfit toys. And on a Tuesday that felt like a Thursday, but was actually a Sunday, nobody could agree anymore. We found ourselves pinned down in a dried-up riverbed in a country that no longer had a name. The mission was simple. Verify intel on a suspected chemical weapons lab near the village of Al-Mazrah. Insert by MH60, patrol 12 clicks to the target, photograph everything, exfil. Clean. Easy. The kind of mission you give to a team of broken weirdos, because nobody else wants to walk through a suspected hot zone at night. That was 3 days ago. Now my patrol base was a shallow depression in the earth, my squad was running on 30-minute micro-sleeps, and my lieutenant, a sharp-edged woman named Calla Hayes who had more medals than patience, was staring at her GPS like it had just called her mother a bad name. Say that again, I whispered. Not because I hadn't heard her, because I needed to hear the impossibility in her voice one more time. Lieutenant Hayes didn't look up. Her finger traced the glowing screen. The GPS says we're 6 clicks southwest of our objective. The stars say we're 12 clicks northeast. The compass says we're somewhere else entirely. She finally lifted her gaze. Her eyes were the color of worn leather, and right now they looked ancient. Pick a reality, Voss. I don't care which one. Just pick one so we can move. Behind me, Specialist Marcus Mako Chun let out a soft, humorless laugh. He was our comm specialist, a wiry kid from Honolulu who could splice fiber optic cable with his teeth and had a dark joke for every occasion. Maybe we're in all three. Maybe reality's just leaking. Stop helping, muttered Private First Class Lena Doc Hartley, our medic. She was currently repacking her aid bag for the 5th time, even though nothing had been used. Doc organized things when she was scared. Right now her aid bag looked like a surgical theater exploded inside it. I scanned the ridgeline above us. Nothing moved. That was the problem. For 3 days, we hadn't seen a single bird, insect, or lizard. No wind. No ambient noise except our own breathing and the occasional distant thump that sounded like artillery, but wasn't because artillery leaves echoes, and these thumps just stopped. Dead. Like someone hitting mute on the universe. Okay, I said, forcing calm into my voice. I was the squad sergeant. If I panicked, they'd follow. Let's logic this. Hayes, when did the GPS first go wonky? She tapped the screen. Yesterday, 14:37. But it wasn't a drift. It snapped. 1 second we were on track. Next second we were... She gestured vaguely here. Wherever here is. Coordinates. They change every time I look. Specialist Diego Gear Rodriguez, our weapons sergeant and resident pessimist, shifted his M4 to his other shoulder. Dust clung to his face like a second skin. So we're lost in a place that doesn't stay still. Great. That's not terrifying at all. That's just a normal Tuesday in whatever hell dimension we walked into. It's not a dimension, said Private First Class Oliver Ghost Tennant. He spoke so rarely that everyone turned to look at him. Ghost was our sniper, a rangy kid from Montana who could shoot the wings off a fly at 800 meters and had the social skills of a particularly antisocial tree. It's a collapse, like a recording skipping. Reality's trying to play the same few seconds over and over, but it's wearing out. The squad went quiet. Doc stopped organizing her bag. Mako stopped smiling. Even Gear looked unsettled. I looked at Hayes. She looked at me. In that silent exchange, I saw exactly what she was thinking. We should have aborted 12 hours ago. We should have called exfil when the stars started moving wrong. We should have listened to our guts instead of the mission clock. But we hadn't, because Lieutenant Calla Hayes had a reputation. She was the youngest officer in the battalion to earn a combat infantryman badge, and she'd done it by never quitting. Ever. Her command existed in a collapsing reality, and she refused to acknowledge the collapse. That was her strength. That was also her flaw. Ghost, Hayes said finally, you see anything on that scope worth shooting? Ghost lifted his rifle, peered through the optic, and held still for a long count of 30. No targets. No heat signatures. No nothing. The terrain's wrong, too. Wrong how? He lowered the rifle. His pale eyes were distant. The shadows don't match the sun. The sun hasn't moved in 6 hours. And the mountains in the distance? They're getting closer. Not because we're moving. Because they're moving. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. I'd been in combat. I'd been ambushed, shelled, and once chased by a pack of stray dogs that I swear were working for the insurgents. But I had never, not once, felt the ground shift under my understanding of how the world worked. Until now. New plan, I said, standing up. My knees popped. I was 31 years old, which in infantry years made me a dinosaur. We find high ground. We get a visual on anything man-made. Road, building, even a fence post. And we walk toward it. If the terrain's lying to us, we use the oldest navigation method we've got. Gear raised an eyebrow. Which is, we leave a trail. String, paracord, rocks, whatever. If we loop back to our own markers, we'll know we're walking in circles. If we don't, I shrugged. Then, at least we're moving. Hayes nodded once. That was her style. No pras, no criticism. Just acknowledgement. Move out. Voss point. Tenant. Rear security. Everyone else in the middle. Weapons hot, but fingers off triggers until we have a target. We climbed out of the riverbed. The ground was wrong under my boots. Too soft, like walking on dry clay that hadn't been baked properly. The air smelled of ozone and something else, something sweet and rotten like overripe fruit left in a hot car. Mako fell in beside me, his radio handset pressed to his ear. I've been scanning all frequencies. Nothing. No military bands, no civilian, no emergency beacons. It's like the whole spectrum went silent. Keep trying, I said. Someone has to be out there. What if there isn't? He asked quietly. What if we're the only ones left in this pocket? I didn't answer, because the honest answer was, then we're already dead, and we just haven't stopped walking yet. We moved for an hour. The sun still didn't budge. The mountains in the distance grew closer, not gradually, but in lurches. Every time I blinked, they seemed to have jumped forward by 100 meters. Ghost was right. They were moving. Doc started humming. It was an old habit, something she did when her brain needed to drown out fear. She was humming a lullaby her grandmother used to sing. I recognized it, but couldn't name it. That made it worse, somehow. The familiarity of the melody against the wrongness of everything else. Contact, Ghost whispered from the rear. We dropped. 6 bodies hit the dirt in under 2 seconds. Training took over. Gear swung his weapon toward Ghost's direction. I crab-crawled to Hayes, who was already scanning with her binos. Where? She asked. 2 o'clock, 300 meters. Base of the closest mountain. I saw movement. Human-shaped, but wrong proportions. Arms too long. Head too small. My heart hammered. Friendly or enemy? Ghost's voice was flat. Neither. Hayes lowered her binos. Her jaw tightened. Define neither. It was wearing uniform fragments. U.S. Army, maybe. But the colors were faded. Not like old fabric. Like the color was draining out of it in real time. Ghost paused. And it was walking backward. Nobody spoke. Then, Mako's radio crackled. We all flinched. After 3 days of silence, a sound that wasn't our own breathing felt like a gunshot. Mako fumbled with the handset, pressed it to his ear, and went pale. It's command, he said, voice shaking. It's Colonel Vance. That was impossible. Colonel Vance was our battalion commander. He was back at FOB Phoenix, 300 clicks away. But his voice came through the static, thin and distant, like a message in a bottle washed up on an alien shore. Ghost 6, this is Phoenix Actual. Abort mission. I repeat, abort mission. Your objective does not exist. Your grid does not exist. You're walking into the transmission cut. Mako twisted dials, punched buttons, swore in 3 languages. It's gone. I lost it. What did he say? Hayes demanded. It what? What did he say? I don't know. The last word was garbled. Sounded like fold or hole. Or Mako's eyes widened. Or fault. A fault. Like a geological fault. Like a crack in something solid. I looked at the moving mountains. At the sun that wouldn't set. At the shadows that pointed in 3 different directions. And my squad. My misfits. Who were looking at me with trust one hadn't earned and fear I couldn't fix. And I made a decision that would haunt me for the rest of my life, which turned out to be much shorter than I expected. We keep moving, I said, toward the mountain, toward the thing Go saw, because if it's wearing our uniform, it came from somewhere, and somewhere might have answers. Hay studied me for a long moment. Then she did something she'd never done before. She put her hand on my shoulder, just for a second, just long enough for me to feel how cold her fingers were. If we die out here, she said quietly, I'm glad it's with you, Voss. That was the moment I realized Lieutenant Callahays was just as scared as the rest of us. She was just better at hiding it behind a wall of command presence and tactical jargon. Her command existed in a collapsing reality, and she was holding it together with sheer willpower and the desperate hope that if she acted like everything was fine, eventually it would be. I didn't tell her that hope was a liar. I just nodded and started walking. We reached the base of the mountain 2 hours later, according to my watch. But my watch had been spinning its hands randomly for the past day, so it could have been 2 minutes or 2 years. The mountain loomed above us, impossibly tall, its rock face smooth as glass. No footholds, no caves, no path up, and no sign of the thing Ghost had seen. It's gone, he said, sweeping his scope across the terrain. No tracks. No sediment residual. Nothing. Gear kicked a loose stone. It didn't bounce. It just stopped. Midair. Hovered for a heartbeat. Then fell straight down as if gravity had forgotten how to work and then remembered. I'm not crazy, right? You all saw that. We saw it, Doc whispered. She'd stopped humming. That scared me more than anything else. I walked to the base of the mountain and pressed my palm against the glass-smooth rock. It was warm. Warmer than it should have been. And when I pulled my hand away, I left a print. Not a smudge. A print. Like the rock was soft. Everyone back up, I said. Now. They didn't ask why. They just moved. That's the thing about a good squad. They don't need explanations. They trust that if you're telling them to run, there's a reason. The rock where I'd touched began to ripple. Not crack. Ripple. Like the surface of a pond after you throw a stone. The ripples spread outward faster and faster until the entire mountainside was shimmering. Then it spoke, not with a voice, with a pressure, a weight inside my skull that formed words without sound. You are not supposed to be here. Hayes raised her weapon. So did Gear. So did Mako. Ghost stayed still, his finger off the trigger, his eyes wide. I held up my hand. Wait. The fault is widening. Your reality bleeds into ours. You bring time. You bring choice. You bring endings. What are you? I asked. My voice didn't shake. I was proud of that. We are what remains when a world forgets to end. We are the echo of an extinction that never finished. And you, Sergeant Voss, are a match in a room full of gasoline. The mountain stopped rippling. The glass-smooth surface went dark. And then, one by one, cracks appeared. Not on the rock. In the air. Thin lines of absolute black, like someone had taken a knife to the sky itself. Mako's radio crackled again. This time, it wasn't Colonel Vance. It was a voice I recognized. My own. Don't go into the mountain. For God's sake, Nina, don't go into the mountain. The transmission ended. I looked at my squad. At Hayes, whose command was crumbling around her. At Ghost, who saw too much. At Doc, who couldn't stop organizing her fear. At Gear, who hid his heart behind a wall of sarcasm. At Mako, who was hearing ghosts on the radio. We're not going into the mountain, I said. Hayes blinked. Then what's the play? I turned away from the shimmering cliff and pointed back the way we came. We go back to the riverbed. We set up a defensive perimeter. And we wait for dawn. The sun isn't moving, Gear said. Then we wait for something that looks like dawn. And when it comes, we walk east. Straight line. No deviation. No matter what we see or hear. Doc frowned. How do you know east is the right direction? I didn't, but I remembered something my grandfather told me once back when I was a kid asking too many questions. If you're lost in the woods, don't look for landmarks. Look for water. Water always flows downhill. Downhill always leads to people. We didn't have water, but we had something else. Because the mountain moved toward us, I said, which means it's following. And whatever follows, you run away from. Hay stared at me for a long moment. Then, she nodded. You heard the sergeant. Move out. Boss, you're still on point. We walked back to the riverbed. The cracks in the air followed us. Not chasing, just watching, like eyes in the dark. And somewhere behind us, the mountain began to whisper again. Not words this time, just a low, grinding hum. The sound of a reality collapsing in on itself. I didn't look back, but I heard it. And I knew, with a certainty that sat like a stone in my chest, that we weren't walking toward safety. We were walking toward whatever came after. We made it back to the riverbed in what felt like 30 minutes, but my watch said was 9 hours. I stopped trusting the watch after the third time it spun backward. The riverbed hadn't changed. That was the worst part. The same rocks, the same dry clay, the same absence of wind or life. It was like we'd never left. Like the whole patrol to the mountain had been a dream we all happened to share. I hate this place, Gear muttered, dropping his ruck against a boulder. I hate it so much I'm inventing new cuss words for it. Doc sat down cross-legged and started checking her aid bag again. 6th time. Her hands were steady, but her eyes were glassy. Has anyone else noticed we haven't eaten in? She trailed off, frowning. How long has it been? 3 days, Mako said. No, I mean how long since we've been hungry? The question landed like a grenade. We all looked at each other. My stomach wasn't growling. My mouth wasn't dry. I couldn't remember the last time I felt thirsty or tired or any of the normal signals my body used to tell me I was still alive. That's not good, Ghost said. His voice was soft, almost gentle. That means the rules are changing. Our bodies are forgetting what they need. Hayes paced the length of the riverbed, her boots crunching on the dry earth. She'd been doing that since we stopped, walking back and forth like a caged animal. Her command was fraying. I could see it in the way her fingers twitched toward her sidearm every few seconds, even though there was no threat. Even though the only threat was the place itself. Lieutenant, I said quietly. Talk to me. She stopped pacing. For a moment, I thought she was going to snap at me, tell me to stay in my lane, worry about the squad, let her handle the big picture. But she didn't. Instead, she sat down next to me on a flat rock and stared at her hands. When I was at West Point, she began, my tactical officer told me something I never forgot. He said, Hayes, the most dangerous thing on a battlefield isn't the enemy. It's uncertainty. Uncertainty makes good soldiers hesitate. Hesitation gets people killed. She looked up at me. I've spent my whole career eliminating uncertainty. I plan. I prepare. I account for every variable. But this place, she shook her head. There are no variables. There's just wrongness. And I don't know how to lead in wrongness. I'd never heard Lieutenant Hayes admit weakness before. Not once. In 3 years of serving under her, she'd been a machine, efficient, precise, unshakable. Hearing her say, I don't know, felt like watching a statue crack. You're not wrong, I said. This place is impossible. The mountain talked to us. The sky has cracks in it. Reality is falling apart. But here's the thing, Lieutenant. I leaned closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. You don't have to understand it. You just have to keep us alive long enough to find a way out. And we can't do that if you're second-guessing every step. She was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly she nodded. You're right. I've been treating this like a tactical problem. It's not. It's a survival problem. She stood up, brushing dust off her uniform. New priority. We stop trying to solve the mystery. We focus on getting home. Everything else is noise. That was the Hayes I knew. The one who could take a pile of broken pieces and call a plan. What about the mountain? Mako asked from across the riverbed. He'd been listening, because of course he had. The radio was his domain, but eavesdropping was his hobby. It said we're not supposed to be here. What if it's right? What if we're the thing that's breaking reality just by existing in it? Then, we stop existing harder, Gear said. We walk faster. We don't look back. We don't touch anything. We become ghosts inside the ghost world. Ghost looked up at that. That's not how ghosts work. Nobody asked you, spooky. Before they could escalate, Gear and Ghost had a friendly rivalry that usually ended with someone getting tackled. I held up my hand. Enough. Mako, any change on the radio? He shook his head. Still nothing. Except, he hesitated. Except what? The static. It's not random anymore. There's a pattern. A rhythm. I think it's trying to form words. but I can't lock onto it. Like listening to someone talk through a wall. Keep trying. Doc, how's your supply? Doc looked up from her aid bag. Plenty of bandages, tourniquets, meds. But if someone gets seriously hurt, we're screwed. I can't perform surgery in a riverbed with no light and no sterile field. Then, nobody gets seriously hurt. Gear, weapon status. Gear checked his M4, then Ghost rifle, then Mako sidearm. All green. Ammo count is good. But if we have to fight something that isn't human, I can't guarantee bullets will work. They worked on the mountain? I asked. The mountain wasn't shooting back. Fair point. Hayes clapped her hands twice. Listen up. We're gonna rest for 2 hours. Real rest. Not the half-away garbage we've been doing. Rotate security in 30-minute shifts. Voss, you take first watch. Then Mako, then document Gear, and Ghost, you're on the back end. I'll float. Float? Gear asked. Means I won't sleep. Someone has to watch the watchers. Nobody argued. Within 10 minutes, the squad had settled into a rough perimeter. Mako curled up with his radio handset pressed to his ear like a child with a stuffed animal. Doc lay flat on her back, eyes closed, hands folded over her stomach. Gear and Ghost positioned themselves on opposite sides of the riverbed, close enough to see each other, but far enough to cover different angles. And Hay sat on a rock near the center, her M4 across her knees, watching the cracks in the sky. I took position at the north end of the riverbed, where the ground sloped upward toward a low ridge. The view was mostly the same, dry earth, gray sky, distant mountains that seemed to breathe, but there was something else now, something I hadn't noticed before. Faint lights, not stars, not flares, just pinpricks of illumination scattered across the horizon, like someone had poked holes in the dark and let a different sky bleed through. I stared at them for a long time, trying to decide if they were getting closer. They were. Voss. Hayes' voice was low, barely a whisper. She'd moved to stand beside me, without making a sound. What do you see? Lights. Maybe 50 of them. Maybe more. They're moving this way. She raised her binos, then lowered them almost immediately. Binoculars aren't working. Everything's blurry past about 200 meters. Mine too. I thought it was just my eyes. It's not your eyes. She handed me the binos anyway. Take a look. I pressed the lenses to my eyes and immediately regretted it. The world through the binoculars wasn't blurry. It was wrong. Colors shifted and bled into each other. The ground looked like it was melting, and the lights weren't lights. They were shapes. Human-shaped, but wrong, just like Ghost had said. Arms too long, heads too small, and they were all wearing uniform fragments. U.S. Army. Marinko. A few I didn't recognize at all. There's dozens of them. I breathed. Maybe hundreds. Are they armed? I can't tell. They're not carrying weapons the way we carry weapons. It's like the weapons are part of them. Like they grew out of their hands. Hayes took the binos back. She didn't look through them again. She just held them at her side and stared at the approaching shapes with her naked eyes. Wake the squad, she said, quietly. I moved through the riverbed like a shadow, tapping boots and covering mouths. Within 60 seconds, everyone was awake and alert. No one asked what was happening. They could see the lights. They could feel the wrongness getting closer. We need to move, Ghost said. Now. Which direction? Gear asked. Every direction leads to more of them. I can feel it. He was right. The lights weren't just on the horizon anymore. They were everywhere. A slow, silent ring of distorted figures closing in from all sides. The mountain, Mako said. His voice was tight, panicked. It's the only place they're not coming from. I looked. He was right. The mountain, the one we'd touched, the one that had spoken, stood behind us, dark and silent. And between us and the mountain, there were no lights. No shops. Just empty ground. That's a trap, Doc said. It has to be a trap. Probably, Hayes agreed. But it's the only direction that isn't already filled with things that want to kill us. So we take the trap. We formed up. Me on point, Ghost on rear, everyone else in the middle. Hayes took the left flank. Gear took the right. We moved at a fast walk, not quite a run. Running was how you tripped, and tripping was how you died. The ground under our feet changed as we approached the mountain. It grew softer, then spongy, then almost liquid, like walking on a mattress filled with water. Each step sank, pulled free with a wet sucking sound. Don't stop, I said. Don't look back. Keep moving. The mountain loomed above us, closer now than it had any right to be. Its surface was still smooth, still glassy, but it wasn't dark anymore. Faint veins of light pulsed beneath the rock, like blood moving through translucent skin. You returned. The voice was back. The pressure in my skull. The weight of something ancient and patient and utterly indifferent to our survival. We didn't have a choice, I said. There is always a choice. You chose to run toward the predator rather than the prey. That is not wisdom. That is instinct. Call it whatever you want. Are you going to help us or not? A pause. The pulsing lights beneath the mountain's surface flickered. Help is a human concept. We do not help. We observe. We record. We remember. Then, remember this, Hayes said, stepping up beside me. Her voice was steel. We are soldiers of the United States Army. We have survived worse than you. And if you don't give us a way out of here, I will personally find out if a thermobaric grenade can crack a mountain made of glass. The mountain was silent for a long time. Then it laughed. Not out loud. Inside our heads. A sound like grinding stones and breaking bones and something that might have been sorrow, if sorrow could exist without a heart to feel it. You would threaten us? You, who are already dead in your own timeline. You, who walked into a fault and never walked out. The words hit me like a physical blow. What do you mean, dead in our own timeline? Your mission, your chemical weapons lab. It was a trap. Not for you, for your battalion. The intelligence was fabricated. The objective never existed. You were sent into the desert to die, and you did. All of you. 3 days ago. Mako made a sound like a wounded animal. Doc grabbed his arm. Gear went pale beneath his dust-caked face. Even Ghost, who never showed emotion, looked like he'd been punched. That's not possible, Hayes said. But her voice wavered. We're standing here. We're talking. We are echoes. You are echoes. Your bodies died in the desert. Your minds were pulled into the fault as you bled out. This place is not a place. It is a threshold, and you're not soldiers anymore. You are memories wearing uniforms. I looked down at my hands. They looked real, solid, but when I pressed my fingers together, I couldn't feel the bones moving. Just pressure, just sensation without structure. No, I said. No, I refuse. Refusal does not change reality. Then, I'll change the rules. I turned to face my squad. They were looking at me with wide, terrified eyes. Hayes was staring at the mountain, her jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping beneath her skin. Listen to me, all of you. I don't care if we're echoes. I don't care if we're dead. We are still here. We are still thinking. We are still fighting. And as long as we're doing that, we're alive. Doc swallowed hard. Voss, if what it's saying is true, it doesn't matter if it's true. What matters is what we do next. I pointed at the ring of lights still closing in behind us. Those things out there, they're echoes too. But they gave up. They stopped fighting. They let the fault eat them until there was nothing left but shapes in old uniforms. That's not going to be us. Gear cracked a smile. It was shaky, but it was real. Damn right it's not. I didn't survive 3 tours in Afghanistan to turn into a creepy shadow monster in a hell dimension. 4 tours, Mako corrected. You did 4. See? Even dead, I'm more decorated than you. The tension broke. Just a little. Just enough. Hayes turned away from the mountain and faced me. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. Voss, what's the plan? I looked at the mountain, at the pulsing veins of light, at the smooth, glassy surface that had spoken to us and told us we were nothing. Then I looked at the ground at our feet, the soft, spongy earth, the way it rippled when we moved. The mountain said this place is a threshold, I said. Thresholds go 2 ways. In and out. We came in through the fault. Maybe we can go out the same way. The fault is behind us, Ghost said. Through the ring of those things. Then we go through them. Hayes shook her head. That's suicide. We're already dead, Lieutenant. Remember? She stared at me. Then, slowly she nodded. Okay. Through them. But we do it smart. We don't engage unless we have to. We move fast, we stay together, and we don't stop for anything. Not for fallen gear. Not for wounded. Not for screaming. Agreed, I said. Everyone locked and loaded. A chorus of affirmatives. Even Ghost grunted something that sounded like approval. We formed up again. This time, I put myself at the back. If anyone was going to get grabbed from behind, it was going to be me. On my count, Hayes said. 3, 2, 1, move. We ran. The ground sucked at our boots, tried to pull us down. The lights grew brighter as we approached, not illuminating, just existing. The shapes behind them became clearer. Long limbs, hollow faces, uniforms from every era, every branch, every war. Some of them still had name tapes. I try not to read them. We passed between two of the shapes. They didn't grab us, didn't speak, just turned their hollow faces to watch us run by. And in their empty eye sockets, I saw something that looked like recognition. They remember being us, I thought. They remember running. A shape reached out as Mako passed. Its two long fingers brushed his shoulder. He flinched, but didn't stop. Didn't even slow down. Don't touch them. Ghost shouted. Don't let them touch you. Too late. The shape that had touched Mako began to change. Its hollow face filled in. Its two long arms shortened. Its faded uniform darkened into the crisp pattern of a modern combat uniform. It was becoming Mako. Run faster. I yelled. We ran. The mountain shrank behind us. The lights grew thicker ahead. More shapes. More hollow faces. More reaching hands. We dodged and weaved, staying just out of reach, but there were so many of them. Hundreds. Thousands. And then, ahead of us, I saw it. A crack. Not in the sky. In the ground. A fissure in the earth that glowed with a pale, familiar light. The same light I'd seen in the mountain's veins. The fault. There! I pointed. Go! Go! Mako reached it first. He didn't hesitate. He jumped. And disappeared. Doc followed. Then Gear. Then Ghost. Then Hayes, who paused at the edge and looked back at me. Boss, come on. I was 20 meters away. 15. 10. But the shapes were closing in. Their hollow faces turned toward me. Their two long hands reached. I ran. I jumped. And as I fell into the light, I felt fingers brush the back of my neck. Cold. Wrong. Hungry. Then nothing. I woke up on my back, staring at a ceiling that had no business being there. White tiles. Fluorescent lights. The smell of antiseptic and old coffee. A hospital. I was in a hospital. She's awake, someone said. A woman's voice. Tired. Hopeful. I turned my head. The movement felt slow, like my neck was full of sand. Lieutenant Hayes sat in a chair next to my bed, her arm in a sling, a bandage wrapped around her forehead. She looked like hell. But she was smiling. You made it, she said. Where are the others? Mako's in the next room. Broken leg, but he'll walk. Doc has a concussion. Gear lost 2 fingers on his left hand. Ghost, she paused. Ghost is fine. Not a scratch. He's been sitting in the corner of your room for the past 6 hours, waiting for you to wake up. I looked to my left. Ghost sat in a plastic chair, his arms crossed, his eyes fixed on me. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The relief on his face was louder than words. The mountain, I said. The shapes. Was any of it real? Hayes leaned back in her chair. Her smile faded. That's the thing, Voss. We don't know. The doctors say we were found in the desert, 3 clicks from where our patrol was ambushed. No memory of the ambush. No memory of the past 3 days. Just gaps. But I remember. I remember everything. She nodded slowly. So do I. So do the others. We all remember the same thing. The riverbed. The mountain. The shapes. The fault. She reached out and took my hand. Her fingers were warm. Real. Command is calling it mass psychosis. A shared hallucination brought on by dehydration and stress. And what do you call it? She was quiet for a moment. Then she leaned closer and lowered her voice. I call a warning. Whatever we saw out there, whether it was real or not, it told us something true. Our mission was a trap. Someone wanted us dead. And if we hadn't walked into that fault, we would be. I closed my eyes. The ceiling tiles spun behind my eyelids. Do we know who? Not yet. But we will. She squeezed my hand. That's not your problem right now. Your problem is getting better. We got a debrief in 2 days. Colonel Vance is going to want answers. Vance. The voice on the radio. Abort mission. You're walking into a... He knew, I said, opening my eyes. Vance knew the mission was a trap. He tried to warn us. Hayes' expression didn't change. I know. Then, why are we debriefing with him? Why aren't we arresting him? Because we don't have proof. All we have is a shared hallucination and a broken radio transmission that no one else heard. If we accuse a colonel of setting up a friendly fire incident with no evidence, we'll be court-martialed so fast our heads will spin. I sat up. My body protested. Every muscle ached, every joint screamed, but I forced myself upright. So what? We just pretend it didn't happen. No, Hayes stood up. She looked down at me with an expression I'd never seen on her face before. Not hardness, not determination. Something softer, something almost like hope. We do what soldiers have always done. We survive. We watch. And when the time comes, we act. She walked to the door, then paused. Ghost, make sure she doesn't do anything stupid. That's my whole job, Ghost said. Hayes left. The door clicked shut behind her. I lay back against the pillow and stared at the ceiling. You okay? Ghost asked. No good. Being okay would be weird after what we saw. I turned my head to look at him. You believe it was real, don't you? The mountain, the fault, all of it. Ghost was quiet for a long time. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled something out. A small, smooth stone. Glassy black. It pulsed with faint veins of light. I found this in my boot, he said. When I woke up in the hospital, he held it out to me. I didn't touch it. I didn't have to. I recognized it. The mountain skin. A piece of the place we'd escaped. That's not a hallucination, I said. No, Ghost agreed. It's not. He put the stone back in his pocket. Then he leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes, and went to sleep. I lay awake for a long time after that, thinking about the mountain, about the shapes, about the voice that had called us echoes, and about the thing the mountain had said that I hadn't told the others. You're not soldiers anymore. You are memories wearing uniforms. But memories could fight. Memories could plan. Memories could hold a grudge. And somewhere in the desert, in a place that didn't exist on any map, a mountain made of glass was waiting, watching, remembering. And so was I. 2 days later, we sat in a windowless conference room at FOB Phoenix. Colonel Vance was at the head of the table, his face carefully neutral. A major I didn't know sat next to him, taking notes. Hayes was at the other end of the table, flanked by Mako, Doc Gear, Ghost, and me. Vance opened a folder. Your after-action reports are interesting. Interesting how, sir? Hayes asked. Interesting in that they're identical. Word for word. 6 soldiers, 6 different writing styles, 6 identical accounts of a 3-day hallucination involving a talking mountain and a reality fault. He closed the folder. I call it a conspiracy if any of you had a motive. Maybe the truth is just the truth, sir, I said. Vance looked at me. His eyes were cold. Calculating. Sergeant Voss, you're recommending a full investigation into the intelligence that led to your patrol. On the basis of a hallucination. On the basis of a radio transmission you sent, sir, telling us to abort. Silence. The major stopped writing. Vance's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes flickered. Fear, maybe, or recognition. I sent no such transmission, Vance said. Someone did, Mako said. I recorded it. Radio traffic is automatically logged. You can pull the logs. Vance stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned to the major. Leave us. The major hesitated, then stood up and walked out. The door closed with a soft click. Vance waited 10 seconds. Then he leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. What you saw out there, what you think you saw, stays in this room. Do you understand? You will not speak of it to anyone. You will not write about it. You will not dream about it if you can help it. Why? Hayes demanded. What are you protecting? I'm protecting you. Vance's face twisted. Not anger. Grief. The fault is real. The mountain is real. And the people who sent you into that desert knew exactly what they were doing. They wanted to feed you to it, to see what would happen. Who? I asked. Vance shook his head. I can't tell you. Not because I won't. Because I don't know. The orders came from above my pay grade. Way above. And every time I try to trace them, I've hit a wall. Or a black hole. Or he trailed off, rubbing his temples. Or something worse. Hayes stood up. Then, we're done here. You can't protect us, sir. You can't even protect yourself. We'll find our own answers. Vance didn't try to stop her. He just sat there, staring at the folder as we filed out of the room. In the hallway, Hayes turned to face us. New mission. Unofficial. Off the books. We find out who sent us into that desert. We find out what the fault really is. And we make sure no one else gets fed to it. That's not a mission, Gear said. That's a suicide pact. Probably Hayes agreed. You in. One by one, they nodded. Mako first. Then document. Then Gear, grumbling. Then Ghost, silent as always. Then me. One condition, I said. Hayes raised an eyebrow. Name it. We don't forget. Any of it. The mountain. The shapes. The things we saw. We remember. And we use it. Because whatever's out there, it thinks we're echoes. It thinks we're nothing. I looked at each of them in turn. Let's prove it wrong. Hay smiled. It was a dangerous smile. The kind of smile that starts wars and ends empires. Deal, she said. We walked out of the conference room together. 6 misfits. 6 echoes. 6 soldiers who had seen the edge of reality and spit in its face. Behind us, in the empty room, Colonel Vance opened the folder one more time. He read the first line of my after-action report. We walked into a place that shouldn't exist, and we walked out again, and then he closed it. He knew what we were planning. He knew we wouldn't stop. And somewhere deep in the desert, in a valley that wasn't on any map, a mountain made of glass began to pulse. Faster now. Brighter. The fault was widening, and we were going back in.